into the practice now. So the three shapes that we're going to explore, which we've been doing, are the three, I guess, dimensions we're going to explore are our length. So again, that kind of down the center line of the body, our width, so to our left and our right, and our depth, our front and our back. And while we're exploring these shapes, let's connect three really important human needs. Human reality is that we need and we crave, even if we think we don't, a sense of dignity, which really lit people up a few weeks ago within the height. So a sense of our dignity, which we can explore while we're exploring our dimension of height. A sense of belonging, which we're exploring in our width. Imagine that, you know, there's a circle of people around me and we're holding hands. That's a pretty beautiful image of community. And we're also exploring our safety, which is the dimension represented in the dimension of our depth. So something to keep in mind that as a human being with a life force existing on this planet, you have those needs of safety, belonging, and dignity. And by allowing yourself to notice what goes on in today's practice, it might open up some curiosity about how those needs are getting met personally, how you're allowing those needs to get met for you, and maybe what it looks like in your own community, how you serve other humans and beings in the meeting of those needs. And an exploration. Okay, so like we always do, we're gonna start by finding our center. So I've been a little bit talky this morning, obviously. I'm gonna take a couple breaths. And I'm imagining just filling my belly with my inhales. And I'm going to take my left hand, place my thumb around where my belly button is so that my left hand falls lower than my belly button, which is likely about a good way to find my center. Now I'm going to just take a few more intentional deep breaths, breathing them into that center point. When we're practicing somatics, we're not doing this grounding to feel good. We're doing this to feel more. We're doing this to increase our senses and our ability to notice. We're not doing this to feel good. We're doing this to feel more. So whatever comes up for you as we go through practice or as you're doing it on your own is awesome and is okay. It's okay if there's an anxiety or a tension that even arises because we're doing this to feel more. Just turn that internal awareness. I like to close my eyes to make it easier, just into that center place. Sending a few breaths. Now we're going to explore kind of a little bit more relaxation into the body. So just notice, is there anywhere that's really tight? I always clench my butt cheeks. That we could just kind of reduce by 10% so that our access to our center is more fluid. Maintaining that internal awareness, uncreaking a couple of tight spots. Let's explore the shape of our height, the experience of our length, and in so our dignity. Just kind of imagine that your feet are planted on the ground. They're well extended, even if you're sitting. Notice the bottom. Notice the end of your length on that end. And then draw the awareness to the end of length around your head, up higher. So notice that there's two ends to that length. Today, you might explore imagining that your length is a few feet above you. Only go, maybe it's just a couple inches, only go as much as feels comfortable. Just envision that the end of the height is growing from the top, and then the end of the height is growing from the bottom. There might be a sensation of confusion or discomfort in this, or maybe it feels really nice, like, wow, I'm finally in my own length. Just whatever it is wonderful. Imagine that from your feet, the length is extending, from your head, the length is extending. And take an action, whatever that looks like for you, to grow in your length, becoming longer. Maintain that sense of becoming longer. Take a little bit of a notice of the center. You might get a little bit lightheaded in this part of the practice. It's okay. Now practice shortening in length, whatever that means to you, as if your length is less, whatever that looks. Okay, now we'll come back to the center, back to where you like to be or you tend to be. And just take a noticing here. Maybe something came up, something is now in your awareness. How might that be related to dignity, sense of aliveness and empowerment and capable resourcefulness in this world? Your sense of self and respect and the respect of others. Just notice if anything arose in that dimension. Let's explore the dimension of belonging in our width. Again, we're going to imagine that our width can start to expand. So imagine that from the left side of the body and the right side of the body, maybe just a couple inches wider you've become now. Maybe you've become a foot long wider. Just whatever feels like your edge today. Just explore the edges of that width, the edges of the sense of belonging. You might all of a sudden notice that there's other people doing this, even with your eyes closed. So you're tapped into this width and belonging. And this one more kind of attempt to stretch the edge here, be as wide as you can. Imagine what it's like to be in more width. Visualize or physically move into a max width. And now lessen the width, whatever that means to you. Maybe a coming together. Let's visualize the width becoming less. Take a notice here, which of these two ways, the wider or the lesser in your width, feels more normal for you. Feels like more homey, more like what you're used to. Come back to normal, to center, back with awareness to center. Just observe in yourself, has anything changed? What's different after exploring my width? There may be some fear about belonging. There may be some joy that comes up about belonging. Whatever came up is wonderful. We're just here to feel more. Now let's explore into the dimension of our safety, into our depth. We're going to start by imagining behind us, because this is one where we're often less aware. So let's put our attention there first. So in your depth, the back body, so the glutes, the lower back, the upper back, the hamstrings, your calves. It helps to maybe put some weightiness into either the bum if you're sitting or the heels if you're on the ground while standing. Just notice that back body. Often this may feel a bit awkward or different because we spend a lot of time inhabiting our front body. So now as we move to gain sensation of our front body, we're not just going to move from the back to the front. We're actually going to envision that there's a whole core inside of you, organs and blood and systems and goo and everything. We're going to kind of go through that on our way to the front. So just imagine that you're a three-dimensional being. You're not a photograph. So there's a depth to you here. Come through that depth on your way to your awareness of your front body. Awareness of your face, your eyebrows, your chest, Notice if it feels like your center is closer to this front part of the body. An experiment you could possibly run is to put another hand, see if the center depth, an experiment. Imagine more into our depth, sinking more into the front and the back. Just this might look like actually becoming kind of a stabilizing top. How do I honor all of my depth? Notice what feels safe and comfortable here. Then notice if anything feels, a little bit silly or different. Just notice. Okay. So I invite you now to draw your attention back to center with a light awareness of all three dimensions of yourself. The dimension of your length, your width, and your depth. Now that you've called your attention to all of those dimensions, what's different? We're gonna set up a little bit of an exciting personal experiment now. So with this awareness of all three, internally ask the body, do I want to practice safety, belonging, or dignity this day, this week? Just give yourself, what would it look like if I practiced into one of those things? Just ask, okay, so if I wanted to practice living in the world with a deeper sense of belonging, what could I try in my daily shapes? So for example, as I said that, I kind of imagine myself practicing with pulling my left and my right arm all the way up until they reach the same height as my shoulder. Ooh, that kind of feels awkward and funky. But just an example of maybe a practice that I would create if I was interested in fostering my own sense of belonging. So I'm happy to chat with each of you about maybe a unique practice for you, but right now, what's the body say it could kind of stand to try some more of? So, maybe if you tend to walk through the world quite big, really exploratory in your width, maybe the body's craving, maybe some internal, some shrinking of the width, whatever that is. Just get curious and playful. That's what we're here to do. We're here to experiment and learn. Okay, so if nothing's come as an idea, that's fine. But if there is something, just maybe right now in this grounded state, set an intention for yourself about how you'd like to practice that, maybe once a day or a few times a day, or maybe envision yourself in a room in your home where you could practice, or a place in your community you feel comfortable practicing. Just kind of take that next step and visualize carrying out the commitment this week. Beautiful. There might be something you're working on. Well, I'm sure there is something you're working on personally. Maybe it's related to a learning project or a business project, or something in your personal life, a relationship. Bring that project into your mind. Something that's really important to you right now that maybe is a little bit challenging even, or at least that you're putting energy and effort toward. Now imagine if you showed up to that project or experience or relationship with this practice shape. So I imagine, as I'm working, which I love doing, if I showed up with the shape of that width I was exploring with my left and right hands up at my shoulders, I feel this sense of, I would be holding, I would be like such a safe container, I would be so connected to the people I'm working with. So that's an example of how I could explore maybe how my shape would serve, or maybe it wouldn't serve and there's a different shape to explore. But how might my shape serve some of the goals I have going on in my life right now? And whatever element you were drawn to, whether that was the dignity, the safety, or the belonging, internally just state to yourself, I am a commitment to that word. So I am a commitment to dignity. I am a commitment to safety, or I am a commitment to belonging. Now you've come up with a creative practice for yourself. Amazing work. And you've explored where in your life you could take that shape. And you've made a commitment to who you're being as a result of that shape. Invite you to take a few more nice breaths in this centered place, knowing that you get to take your center with you everywhere, wherever you are today, and always. And just invite you to, on your own pace, and open the eyes. Maybe notice that you can keep the eyes relaxed. You'll know that that's true if you have some good peripheral going on. They're still in like a nice relaxed state. I think we overstimulate ourselves with screens, and so I encourage you that you don't have to look directly at the screen to show us that you're back or anything. Just kind of as you like, allow some light to enter in through your eyes and to gain some awareness of your physical space. I notice my hands really want to move. I'm going to let them move. So just notice if there's a stillness that your body desires or a movement your body desires, and let yourself have it. Okay. Beautiful work. That was a little bit of a fun challenge. I hope it was fun. It was fun for me. It was a challenge to explore. Okay, we're in these practices. We're acknowledging and experiencing our width, depth, and length. How could this impact our way of being in the world? It was a little invitation for you. So I am going to pause the recording and just invite anyone